Good evening, namaskar, hello, welcome to the 10th iteration, the 10th episode of the special revision series that we have been running for the better part of the last week and more than that. So today is the 10th class and we have completed the theory portion of CSAT, okay? However, let me assure you that if you have any particular doubts in particular questions, the theory bit, well, I do explain those in the context of the question 2. Today, what we are going to do is continue with solving previous year's questions as well as solving some original questions. Okay, and we look at basically how UPSC asks you questions. What is the mindset of the commission? How does it look to trap you? Okay, what are the mistakes that you are going to make? Okay, that's what my job is. That's what I try and impart with you, right? So briefly, before we start with the questions, well, this is the whole series that I'm talking about. Okay, we have begun from the intro class, the central idea, tones, continuation of tones. Then after that, we have gone to corollary, inference, gist, conclusion, all of those words. Good evening, Anup. Welcome back. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. So we have done all of that. Okay. May I again just tell you before, very briefly, before we move forward with the questions, please for this year, okay, for 2024 CSAT, sorry, 2023 CSAT, it is my suggestion, please make sure that you revise your tones, the tone of the passage, identification of the tone of the passage. Please make sure that you at least acquaint yourself with the basic tones. Where is that information that you're going to get? Well, here, which is part 4 as well as in part 3, right? So please do that because I'm anticipating at least one question insofar as identification of tones is concerned. Why? Because it's a basic part of CSAT. One of the most fundamental bits of CSAT, of reading comprehension, which is unfortunately overlooked en masse. So please do that, okay? Right, so I don't want to waste much time because again we have a long way to go. So today we'll be solving questions from 2015 and 2016. Okay, so the agenda of the day is that we'll be solving previous year's questions along with commonly asked questions. The type of questions that UPSC throws at aspirants will be discussed. And so we are going to be going year-wise. 2015-16, then 17-18, 19-20, finally 21-22. Hopefully we should reach there before May the 28th, which I think we will. We have enough time, 12 days. So we have enough time to reach there, making sure that you revise through all of the questions, understand the mindset of UPSC as well as get your own learnings from it so that you can assure a positive outcome on May 28th at 4:30 p.m. in the evening. All right, that was the introduction. Now that that has been done out of the way, let's quickly head into the first question of the day. All right, I'll just keep shut for a minute, let you soak in the passage first. Stench of kerosene, yes. Have a look at the passage first, then I shall discuss it. Okay. Set against a rural backdrop, Stench of Kerosene is the story of a couple, Guleri and Manak, who have been happily married for several years but do not have a child. Okay, fine. Manak's mother is desperate to have a grandchild. Why? To carry on the family name. See, this is like any serial, any Hindi movie serial that you might find on all of these channels. That is the story that is being put forth here. Okay. Family name. Kul ka naam badhana hai. As the joke goes, Chandragupta Maurya hai kya hum? But still. So Kul ka naam badhana hai. Hence, she gets Manak remarried in Guleri's absence. So Manak acts as a reluctant but passive spectator. He is meanwhile informed by a friend that Guleri, on hearing about her husband's second marriage, poured kerosene on her clothes and set fire to them. Manak is heartbroken. Okay, he is heartbroken. After all of this, after remaining passive and reluctant, he is heartbroken and begins to live as if he were a dead man. When his second wife delivers a son, all right, finally, कुल का नाम बढ़ाने वाले का आ गया. Manak stares at the child for a long time and blurts out, "Take him away. He stinks of kerosene." Kerosene, the same material which was used by Guleri to essentially kill herself. ठीक है, fine. So this is a sensitive issue-based story which tries to sensitize the reader about, essentially, identify the central idea of the passage. What is the central idea of the passage is what the author is essentially asking us to identify. Right? Number one, male chauvinism and infidelity. What is infidelity? What does infidelity mean? So basically, please understand it like this. Excuse me. So infidel, if you were to just understand the meaning of the word infidel, it essentially means non-believer. Okay? Non-believer. That's the sense. So probably you are a non-believer in the majoritarian or in the religion of the majority, for example. So you become an infidel. You don't believe in the God of the majority. Similarly, infidelity is often used to say that the person is a non-believer in the institution of marriage. Essentially what it means is someone who cheats. Someone who cheats or engages in acts that are not socially acceptable, that are outside the ambit of a married person's, say, responsibilities or duties. You go ahead and have an affair. That's infidelity. You cheat on your spouse. That's infidelity. You are a non-believer in the current institution of your marriage, which is why you feel tempted to go out and engage in such acts. That's infidelity. Okay? So, male chauvinism and infidelity? Well, no, not really. I mean, yes, Manak did get married. Okay? But then he was forced. It was not out of his own will. Eventually, he was reluctant and passive, and yet he went along. Had he done out of his own will, then that would be infidelity. Okay, so this wouldn't be the option for sure. Love and betrayal. Well, obviously, yes, there is betrayal. There is love too. But then, is this all that it is? Is this all that the passage is about? Is it just about love and betrayal? Or is it also pointing to, say, a larger social problem at the heart of it? That's what you need to quickly identify. Yes, of course, love and betrayal is a theme in the passage. Right? But then, is it the central idea of the theme? No. It's an ancillary idea. What is the central idea? That a person's trust was broken. Why? Because they needed to carry on the family name, which is why they needed a son, which is why the institution of marriage between Manak and Guleri was violated. Right? So love and betrayal becomes a side angle. Manak's love towards Guleri becomes a side angle. It's not the central point of the author. Okay? Which is why this won't be my best option. Not really my best option. Okay? Lack of legal safeguards for women. Well, does it have anything to do with the passage? Are we discussing the legality of the system here? Not really. Okay, that will come later. That will probably come in the next passage. If this was a continuation, the outcomes of this act will come in the next passage. Right? So the legal safeguards, again, it's not the central idea. Last, influence of patriarchal mindset. Why patriarchal mindset? What does patriarchal mean? Patriarchy. What does patriarchy mean? So for example, say elephants. Elephants they follow matriarchy, where the female elephant is the sort of the power resides, the power of the herd, the collective decision-making ability on behalf of the herd resides in her. So elephants are matriarchs. Similarly, say families, which is changing obviously, but families are patriarchal. Individuals are patriarchal. They believe that, the prevalence of man should be overwhelming. His thought and his opinion should be given precedence over, say, the thought of a feminine gender. Okay? So he's the one who controls the power in the family. His word is the final word, suppose. Then that's patriarchy. Again, there are communities which are where you have matriarchy, where the female, the head of the family, her word is final. You cannot go beyond that. You cannot question that. Okay? So patriarchy and matriarchy. So, yes, why? Why patriarchy again? Because eventually, all of this commotion, this who, hopla, shosha, everything was only for what? So that Manak and Guleri have a son together. So that the family name is carried forward. See? Now what's going to happen is most of the students are going to be marking B. Love and betrayal. Why? Because the story says that they were happily married. That's what they will look at. That they were happily married, and then he becomes like a lifeless dead body. Look at him, so aghast. That poor fellow had to marry 2 times, and now his wife died. Look at him, so aghast. Oh my God, he's the victim as if. Right? So this is the scene. This is how you are going to approach. Identification of ancillary idea, central idea. The moment you do that, your question is solved. No gut feeling. It's pure English guidelines. It's just logic as to how you arrive at the answer. Okay? How many of you got this answer? Do let me know. Let's try and make this interactive. Because if we make it interactive, then I'll be able to address your doubts, your queries, your grievance, whatever. Because again, we have 12 days, just 12 days to go for the D-Day, 28 Tarik. So now would be a good time for you to throw at me your doubts. Now would be a very good time, which is why I always encourage questions, doubts. If you want to, well, there is the chat box. Type in your question. I'll try and answer it. If you feel like if you have a bigger doubt that needs addressing on my side, well, this is my email ID. Please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to resolve it for you. Okay, this is my email ID at StudyIQ. Go ahead, shoot me your doubts and I shall try and resolve them for you. Okay? I hope that this is used by students. I wish I had that kind of facility when I was preparing, that a faculty come and tell me that, what, here's my email ID. Shoot me a doubt whenever you want to. But unfortunately, we didn't have this privilege that you guys have. Okay? Moving forward. Next one. This is also a question from 2015. Like I've told you, we'll be doing a lot of questions from 15 and 16 this evening. Okay? Let's look at this passage. I'll keep shut for a minute. Let you absorb it, soak it in. The ultimate aim of government is not to rule or control by fear, nor to demand obedience, but conversely is essentially opposite. The sense of opposite is conversely. Okay? But in an opposite manner, to free every man from fear, that he may live in all possible security. In other words, to strengthen his natural right to exist and work without injury to himself or others. Geo or Gene do. The object of government is not to change men from rational beings into beasts or puppets. It should enable them to develop their minds and bodies, okay, in security and employ their reason. Rationality is being spoken by the author. That you should be rational beings. Okay? You should be rational beings, free of or free from what? Free from dogma. You should shun dogma and be rational beings. That's what the author is speaking about. That's what the crux of the author is. Okay? That, develop the minds again. A very famous quote, I think it's by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Or probably, I might be wrong. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. I think it is by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Probably, to the best of my recollection. That's what essentially the passage is about. That your mind is without fear, your head is held high. You are allowed to develop to the best of your ability and potential and serve in the cause of nation building. become an asset to the nation rather than a liability to the nation, right? That's what the author's position here is. Okay, this is what the author is speaking about. That should be the ultimate aim of any government, rather than to make you like a tax depositing entity only, right? That the state should also invest in you as much as you invest in the state. It's a bi-directional relationship. It's not unidirectional, where it's just one way. Okay? So, which among the following is the most logical and rational inference? Inference. The author is asking you to identify the inference. Again, quickly, a brief recap: inference and conclusion. If you're watching this for the first time, in one line, if I have to explain inference and conclusion to you, conclusion is the smaller thought, the more direct thought. Okay? Inference is the more holistic, general statement that encompasses the conclusion. Okay? The bigger set, the bigger circle would be inference, which will include the pointed conclusion. Tick? Understand it that way. For example, I am allergic to, say, chemicals A, B and C. Again, an example that I have repeated in the past. I am allergic to chemicals A, B and C, which means my inference is that I am allergic to, or I have an allergy to chemicals. My conclusion would be that I am allergic to specific A, B, C, D, and I am not allergic to, say, F, G, H. Okay? That's how you are going to understand it. That's critical in understanding, because UPSC exploits this lack of understanding. Many people think inference and conclusion are the same. No. While they are the same insofar as they point to the same thing, they are pointing to the orientation is the same, but the ambit is different. Okay? Inference is the larger term, it's the bigger term. All right? Okay. So, which of the following is the most logical and rational inference? First one, the true aim of government is to secure the citizens their social and political freedom. Okay? We'll keep this aside for the time being. Next, B, the primary concern of government is to provide absolute social security to all its citizens. Now, how are you going to identify the differences? More often than not, you can solve the question just by looking at the operative words. Operative words here: primary, absolute, and social. Okay? You should ask yourself this before you take B. Is it the primary concern? Yes or no? Second, does it provide absolute, which means can't be questioned, complete? Ask yourself that question. Next, only social? What about political? What about economic? What about spiritual? Quickly analyze it. The operative words you have to figure out. So yes, can you say yes to all three? Not really. Galat. No. Move forward. The best government is the one that allows the citizen to enjoy absolute, again, liberty in all matters of life. Operative words have been marked. The best government makes sure that you can enjoy, say, absolute liberty in all matters of life. Okay? Do you have unshackled liberty? Absolute liberty to do whatever the hell you want? No. Not really. That's not the inference of the author, in fact. The author's focus is inward, not outward. How do you know the author's focus is inward? He says to develop their minds. Inward focus. How can I be a better citizen? How can the government help me be a better citizen? Rather than being government investing me and then I enjoying. No. That's not what the author is saying. The focus is inward, which is why negate, nada. D, again, the best government is the one that provides absolute physical security to the people of the country. If you can say yes to all three, only then shall your answer hold. So, absolute only physical security? What about the other kinds of security? यहाँ पे तो लिखा भी हुआ है, develop their minds and bodies. Mind का physical security होगा क्या? Body could be physical security. Mind has to be free. You should be allowed to cultivate and develop your own point of thinking, scientific temperament that the Constitution talks about. That's freeness of the mind. That's allowing you to develop your mental faculties to the best of your ability. Okay? So, again, I can safely negate this out. Which means my answer has to be A. We'll look at A now. The true aim of the government is to secure the citizens their social and political freedom. वही लिखा है उधर. True is the correct aim, what it is meant for. Okay? Say the true aim or say the true destiny of Sachin Tendulkar was to bat. That's what he was born for. That's what his purpose in life was. You know? So that's like that, the true aim. So the correct aim of the government, any welfare state, will make sure that social and political freedom is guaranteed. That's what the author is talking about. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Right? That's what the author's logical inference is, the rational inference is, after all these mumbo jumbo that he's tried to convey. Right? So this is what you're going to do. Now many people will mock this method, saying, you know what, you are going to guess the answer by looking at particular operative words. If the answer is correct, if my way is correct, if it is scientific, who cares? Marks आप लेके जाओगे. ज्ञान तो सब देते हैं. ठीक है? Follow that which helps you arrive at the correct answer. UPSC can't just be cleared by motivation. It requires a little bit of tact. It requires a little bit of ingenuity in preparation. Okay? If it was just motivation, then everyone just would have watched, say, all Dwayne Rock videos and cleared UPSC. ऐसे नहीं चलता है. ठीक है? Fine. Okay. We'll move forward. So, next question. Municipal corporations. Quickly soak in this passage. जल्दी से पढ़िए इसको. Have a look. Our municipal corporations are understaffed. First grievance. लोग कम हैं. The issues of skills and competencies of the staff pose an even greater challenge. Skill भी नहीं है और competency भी नहीं है. Understaffed, skill, competency. Three problems that the author has straight away thrown in the first line itself. ठीक? Urban service delivery and infrastructure are complex to plan and execute. They require a high degree of specialization and professionalism. The current framework within which municipal employees, including senior management, are recruited does not adequately factor in technical and managerial competencies. Cadre and recruitment rules only specify the bare minimum in academic qualifications. There is no mention of managerial or technical competencies. This is the case with most municipal corporations. They also suffer from weak organizational design and structure. Essentially, the author has gone all out and criticized municipal bodies and the way it is set up in India. He is like, ये फालतू है, काम नहीं करता ये, हटाओ इसको. हटाओ इसको तो नहीं बोला, but essentially he is criticized. Scathing है, in fact. You know, if you have to discuss tones, he is scathing in his assessment. S-C-A-T-H-I-N-G. Scathing. He is criticizing the municipal bodies very sharply. Sharp criticism. Okay. He said nothing is correct. All it's all haywire, bad. Okay. Right? So he says urban service delivery and infrastructure are complex. So you do not have specialized individuals. You do not have professional individuals. At the same time, you do not know whether who are getting recruited, do they have the adequate technical competency? Core competency क्या है उनका? Eventually, most of the recruitment in India is how? At least for government jobs. All you need to require is 50%. In fact, most exams don't even ask this. 50% भी नहीं पूछते. बस graduation किया है काफी उसमें stream में आ जाओ. Exam लिखो. Right? So when you have such low benchmark anyways for entry, how are you going to improve your citizen service delivery for citizens? Okay. Cadre and recruitment rules. Now he's from the individual, he's come to the organization also. Yeah, the organization is also set up in a very slipshod manner. Okay? That there is no cadre restructuring is required, recruitment rules are bare minimum. They suffer from weak organizational design, which means what? That promotions are slow, you don't get your, say, money on time, TADA नहीं मिलता. It's very slipshod, it's halka phulka, किसी भी तरह से काम चलाओ चल रहा है. That's what the author is trying to say. It's a very halka organization. It's not empowered to the fullest so that it can serve service delivery better. Okay, that's what his grievance with the whole municipal body is. Okay, are you able to quickly identify the tone of the passage? Like I told you, it's scathing. पर अगर आप identify कर पा रहे हो that the author is being negative in assessment, he is being critical. Even if you are able to identify this much, that the author is critical of municipal bodies, that's a good start to be at. That's a good place to be at. Okay, identify the different things that he's speaking about. That he's just not speaking about, say, the numbers, not just quantitatively, but also qualitatively. Okay, why I tell you this? Because UPSC is going to ask this question, that the author has made a quantitative assessment of the problems that, say, municipal bodies are faced with. So quickly identify, is he just speaking about numbers, or is he speaking about the quality also, the type of people who are getting recruited? Okay, so he has gone and criticized both ways, qualitatively also and quantitatively also. ठीक है? Fine, we'll look at the question now. Which among the following is the most logical and rational assumption? The author is asking you, what's my assumption before I wrote the passage? What was going through my head that I took for granted before I wrote the passage? That I thought would lead all the ज्ञान that I've given about municipal bodies. जो author ने इतना लंबा चौड़ा ज्ञान दिया है, उसके पहले उसने कुछ assume किया है कि उसके बाद कुछ होगा. This is assumption. Okay? This is what the author is doing. What's the thing that he's taken for granted based on which the passage, if true, would provide or make some sense? Let's look at the option now. The task of providing urban services is a complex issue which requires the organizational expansion of the municipal bodies all over the country. Organizational expansion. Just organizational expansion. मैंने आपको अभी इतना अच्छा कथा सुनाया. हाँ, such a good pravachan I gave you, that it is about quantitative and qualitative. Both ways. Not just that you increase the number of your offices and the problem with municipal bodies will be solved. No. That's not what the author is saying. That's not what he's assuming also. Okay. This makes no sense whatsoever. He's taken both sides into consideration. This is just speaking about expansion, some vague term, makes no sense to the passage. Okay. B. Our cities can provide better quality of life if our local government bodies have adequate staff. Quantitative. Required skills and competencies. Qualitative. See? Quantitative, qualitative. दोनों को उसने include कर लिया है. और अगर आप improve करोगे, if you were to improve this, both sides, both quantitatively and qualitatively, then you can provide better quality of life. Your citizen delivery, service delivery for citizens will be better. It will improve. No more clogged drains or traffic jam or falling houses or falling flyovers and all of that nonsense that happens because of shoddy construction. Okay? That the kuda wala will come on time, that there will be fogging in the evening, mosquitoes won't be a problem. All of that come under the ambit of, say, municipal bodies. They are not just there to, say, cut receipt. They do a lot of job. So how can you do a better job of that? Well, if you provide them numbers as well as training, quantitatively, qualitatively. Lack of skilled staff. Again, सिर्फ number की बात हुई, only quantitative, is due to the absence of institutions which offer requisite skills. How would we know? Maybe that there are institutions and they train people and they don't apply for government job. How can this be a valid assumption? That all this problem is only because there are no training institutions. Would that explain why the municipal bodies are understaffed? Okay. Are training institutions, say private training institutions, supposed to be a feeder route to get into municipal bodies? No. There's no connection between the two at all. Right? So again, can't be. Our country is not taking advantage of the demographic dividend to manage the problems associated with rapid urbanization. Too vague. Okay. And firstly, what's the need of including this demographic dividend? Why? Are municipal bodies only for, say, youngsters below the age of 35? No. Municipal bodies are for everyone, in fact. Right? So this makes no sense again. How can this be a valid assumption? No ways. My assumption has to be such that whatever I'm writing in the passage, that should make sense. That should be of some takeaway to the person who is writing it. So what should be my assumption here? That this, कि अगर आप ये करोगे तो ये होगा. If you were to improve in both qualitatively and quantitatively, then citizen service delivery will be better. However, and then the passage follows. We haven't done this because these are the problems. ठीक है? See how we are approaching questions, guys. It's going to be of immense benefit to you if you can train your mind to look at questions the way I am trying to look at it for you. Okay, it's going to help you immensely. Not just in CSAT, but also in essay writing. And in fact, I was planning to have a whole session on essay writing as to discuss with you. How do we write a good essay? You know, many people think, oh, essay writing is just about writing big words and pen khichna, ye wo, nothing. In fact, you have to follow rules. There are rules called paraformation rules. Okay? Paraformation rules are essentially the rules that tell you how to write a good paragraph. What makes a good paragraph? Your essay is essentially composed or comprises paragraphs. So if you write good paragraphs, you will write good essays. Good paragraphs are the foundations on which good essays are written. Read any good essay. Go to Aon essay or this essay or that essay, hundreds of websites online. You will find that of the way a paragraph is written is brilliant. You know, there is no jump, discordance between two lines. It's a natural flow quickly, subtly, but you'll understand. You know, so we are going to have that class. If we have enough people who would like to do that, make that happen, we'll set it up in the near future. Okay? Moving forward. We'll move forward and look at, did we do this? Yeah, okay. Let's look at this question, guys, quickly. Flamingos. Let's look at the flamingos question. We'll discuss what is corollary, a corollary. Okay. Let's look at the passage now. Flamingos in large flocks in the wild are social and extremely loyal. What are flamingos? A particular kind of bird, a particular type of bird. So in the wild, they are social and extremely loyal. They perform group mating dances. Parents are very fond of the chicks, gathering them into creches for protection, while both males and females fly off to search for food. In fact, I think penguins are also supposed to be quite loyal and social. To the best of my, again, recollection. I do watch a lot of pointless documentaries, so probably penguins also showcase or exhibit the same kind of behavior. So anyways, coming back to the passage. Which among the following is the most logical corollary to the above passage? What does this mean? What does corollary mean, guys? What would corollary mean? Okay. Please understand, corollary is essentially to be understood as a result of So you have info in the passage. Okay. If it were to be true, then what would be the corollary? What would be the result of the information in the passage? The result of or the consequence of. Understand it like that. ठीक है? Number 1, mass nesting in all species of birds is essential to ensure complete survival of their offspring. Here, extreme option number 1, all offspring or all species. Really? All species? Do we have that sense anywhere that it is to do with all species? The passage just mentions about flamingos. How can you and I assume that flamingos equals all? Would that be a correct assumption? No. Incorrect assumption. Okay. You cannot ascribe flamingos to all. Like I've told you in the past also, look out for extreme options. All, one, none, some, many, much. Wherever you find this connotation of numbers being introduced suddenly. Yes? Quickly, aap tham jao. Take a pause. Take a pause. 5 seconds won't cost you anything. But look at the passage again and go and see whether there has been any connotation of that number. Some, one, all, none, all of that. जितने भी वो number वाले आते हैं. Always be careful whenever they are introduced in the options. So straight away, all species, nah. The passage just talks about the flamingos. Next, only birds have the capacity to develop social behavior and thus can do mass nesting to raise their chicks in safety. Only birds. Again, extreme option. How do we know? The passage speaks about flamingos. However, then just to say that based on this passage, my assessment is that only birds do whatever is being shown here. Is it true? Can it be a correct consequence of the passage? No. No ways. No. Okay. See, social behavior in some species of the birds increases the odds of survival in an unsafe world. Okay, we can keep this for the time being. Some species, fine. We are speaking about one particular species here, flamingo. So we can include that. Next, all species of birds again. How do we know that crows also do it? Okay, how do we know that say vultures and pigeons and the big birds, all of them do it? We do not know. Insofar as birds are known, only information about flamingos is concerned. Which means that some species, some individuals, some species do exhibit this behavior. So you have say flamingos who do it, penguins who do it. Some species, fine, take it. Right? So, social behavior in some species of birds increases the odds of survival in an unsafe world. Why do they do this? So that their offspring goes on to live rather than die. Okay. So, yep, corollary ekdam sahi hai. See. Right? Look at how we are attempting the questions, guys. Okay. That should like help you out with the doubts, with the whole strategy. You know, many a time students will ask me, what should be the strategy? Well, here is the strategy. Here is how you are going to solve questions. Okay. All you need to do is just be little careful when you look at the options. Just little careful. Okay. And just to go digress for 2 minutes. Many a time, no, students will say, "Mera luck kharab tha." It was my luck that I couldn't crack paper 2. I don't want to debate and argue there. All I'm saying is that probably it was your exam temperament too. Okay? Probably. Okay, it was probably your exam temperament too. And how do you develop exam temperament? Well, by practicing questions. There's no other way. Practicing questions in a time-bound manner. You give yourself limited time and you go at the questions. It's not like 2 घंटे का पेपर है तो मैं अपने आप को 2 घंटे 30 मिनट दे रहा हूँ कि आराम से सॉल्व करेंगे. What's the point then? Right? What's the point then? So if you're able to do this on a regular basis, you'll find yourself in an extremely comfortable position come 20th of May. Extremely comfortable position, in fact. Okay? Fine, we'll move forward. But I would appreciate any kind of particular questions or doubts that you have at this moment. I'd be more than happy to take them on and address them for you. Okay? Next, let's look at this question. Worst number of Indian citizens without bank accounts live in rural areas, are financially and functionally illiterate. So they're illiterate in both senses. Okay? And have little experience with technology. A research study was conducted in a particular area in which electronic wage payments in MGNREGS are meant to go directly to the poor. What was observed? That recipients often assume that the village leader needs to mediate the process. Pradhan sahab आएंगे, Pradhan ji आएंगे और पैसे दिलाएंगे. ठीक है? Pradhan ji will come. As was the case under previous paper-based system. Lack of awareness is essentially being attributed here, that they do not need a pradhan to get their hard-earned money. Okay? Among households under this research study area who claim to have at least one bank account, over a third, 33% se zyada, reported still receiving the wages in cash directly from their pradhan. Okay? So the pradhan is essentially become the focal point of this whole direct benefit transfer, DBT. Okay? You must have understood by now and in fact studied by now what is DBT, what are the pros, cons over say cash, over say a paper-based transfer system, how should you go ahead and do it, what are the safeguards, pitfalls, have an analysis of those things. Okay? It helps you build your horizons. So, now that this story is clear, now that this story is absolutely clear, let's look at the question. What is the most logical, rational, and crucial message? All these three things essentially mean that the author is once again asking you to identify the central idea. What is the central idea? What is the author attributing to? Okay, if you can't see that, again, I've just written it down for you. The author has asked you to identify the logical, rational, and crucial message of the passage. This is what the author has asked you, which essentially means you have been asked to identify the central idea. Number one, so should this be extended only to those who have a bank account? Firstly, is this the author's position? The author does speak about Pradhanji twice. No, not really. Can't be. And what about those who don't have a bank account? उनको नहीं दोगे क्या आप काम? कैसे चलेगा फिर? ठीक है. B, the paper-based system of payments is more efficient than electronic payment in the present scenario. This is called a distortion. This is called a distortion. What is a distortion? कि author के argument को लिया, you took the argument of the author and you twisted it, misrepresented it. Okay? You drew a false conclusion from it. That's distortion. Okay? That's distortion. The goal of electronic wage payments was not to eliminate mediation by village leaders. Was it? Not to eliminate? Was it the goal of electronic wage payment? Did the government one day wake up and say, you know what? We are going to have electronic wage payment and we are not going to chedo chado with the Pradhan's relevance in the gaon. Is that what you think? The powers that we thought? No. They couldn't care less. What they need is essentially that the project to be successful, you need to have digital literacy, you need to empower them, cyber awareness, security के बारे में समझाओ, all of that. Those would make, say, the components of a project or a policy like this. Not something as stupid as, say, eliminate mediation by village leaders. Who cares? Right? D, it is essential to provide financial literacy to the rural poor. If you do this, then the person is not going to be dependent on Pradhanji, on the village headman, to essentially get his or her money. Okay? Then the person will not have to be will not be reliant on the village headman or Pradhan. Okay? And this particular stat here, 33% take their cash directly, which means that you need to empower them in some way. Financial literacy has to be imparted to them. Unless you do that, well, Pradhan will again become the intermediary. He will become the middleman between the government and the beneficiary. Do you want to do that? No. That's not the logical, that's not the crucial message. The message of the author is what? पढ़ाओ इनको, बताओ इनको, awareness फैलाओ थोड़ा. ठीक है? Clear? So my answer here would be D. D for dog. Right? Clear? Okay. We'll move forward. Fine. Let's look at this question. Okay. Individuals, groups and leaders who promote human development operate under strong institutional, structural and political constraints. What does constraints mean? Constraints means challenges. Constraint means the problems under which you are operating. Okay? That affect policy options. What are the constraints? Institutional, structural and political. But experience suggests broad principles for shaping an appropriate agenda for human development. One important finding from several decades of human development experience is that what? Focusing exclusively on economic growth is problematic. Okay? Just looking at economic growth is problematic. Fine. While we have good knowledge about how to advance health and education, the causes of growth are much less certain and growth is often elusive. What does elusive mean? What does elusive mean? Elusive essentially means difficult to catch or obtain. Difficult to catch or obtain. Okay? So, difficult to catch or obtain essentially says that growth is not easy to attain. It's not so easy peasy. That suddenly you try कि आज मेरा country 9% से grow करेगा और वो overnight हो जाएगा. It doesn't happen like that. That's not the way how it operates. It takes sustained efforts to reach a particular growth rate. And it takes sustained efforts also to completely undo the damage. Okay? While we have good knowledge about how to advance health and education, the causes of growth are much less certain and growth is elusive. Further, an unbalanced emphasis on growth is often associated with negative environmental consequence. Growth is inversely proportional to environment consequence. मतलब growth directly proportional to environment consequence. Okay? Directly proportional to environmental consequence, which means if you have higher growth, you are going to have more problems, more environmental problems. Okay? The experiences of China with its impressive growth record reflects these broader concerns and underlines the importance of a balanced approach that emphasizes investments in non-income aspects. सिर्फ growth के पीछे ध्यान मत दो, बाकी सब चीजों को भी देखो. Okay? Just running after growth is not going to solve your problems. Okay, that you need to emphasize on non-income aspects, which means environmental aspects and social aspects and political aspects. Income aspects will be the economic aspects. Growth is a part of the economic aspect. The author is advocating not just this, but also this. The author is saying, let's look at both and not just say economic aspects, not just running after growth. Okay, fine. Moving forward quickly. With reference to the above passage, consider the following statements. In developing countries, a strong institutional framework is the only requirement for human development and policy options. B. Human development and economic growth are not always positively interrelated, which is true, right? We discussed this directly. So obviously they're not always positively related. This is true. Focusing only on human development should be the goal of economic growth. So tell me the answer. For those of you who are watching, we have a fair number of people who are here. Let me see. 2 is obviously correct, right? So we can negate this out for sure. Is 1 correct? Is it the only requirement? Well, the author speaks about different frameworks, no? Institutional frameworks. He talks about 3 of them. Look at it. He talks about institutional, structural, and political. You need to be empowered in all 3 manners, is what he says. Not just 1 and then 2 lacking is not going to help you out, right? So, is it the only requirement? Obviously no. Nada. Incorrect. Which means this is also incorrect. So now we have to check the validity of 3. Focusing only on human development should be the goal of economic growth. Only? Only on human development? You leave growth altogether, is what he's saying? Or he's saying that you have a balance between the 2? That you go ahead and balance it out. Non-income में भी करो, पर ठीक है, growth में भी कर रहे हो, economic में कर रहे हो, पर non-income में भी आप करो. Is this not what he's saying? Right? So it can't be the only focus. Which means my answer is C. My answer would be C. Right? Okay. Clear? All right. So I didn't want to unnecessarily go very fast today, but I did want to cover a lot of questions. Ideally, I would like in my 1 hour to at least do 10 to 11 questions. Explain to you at least the methodology to arrive at the answer. That's my whole intention of making sure that in this whole revision series for CSAT reading comprehension. Okay, so we will be wrapping it up for today. Tomorrow, again, we will be continuing with 2015 and 2016 questions. In fact, tomorrow the focus will be more on 2016 questions. For those of you who want to test your methodology or you want to understand the way we approach answers, please again, may I implore you, may I request you, okay, please tune in tomorrow, 7 p.m, same time. StudyIQ English IAS is where you will find me and where I will be discussing 2016 previous year questions, okay, specifically from reading comprehension perspective, and hopefully I will have more of you coming in and more questions and more doubts, and we can make it interactive. We can understand each other's point of view, we can differ, agree, all of that has to be following in the days to come. I look forward to your active participation. On that note, thank you once again, Anup. Thanks very much. It's very kind of you. I look forward to see you tomorrow also, Anup. And so on that note, this is a wrap from me, Bhuvan Apurva Jha, for today. But tomorrow, 7 p.m. is when I will be back with 2016 previous year questions that UPSC has asked specifically in CSAT. Until I see you tomorrow, once again, thanks for watching. Bye.